Hey, this is Bryce Harper, and welcome to the Phillies Show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Phillies Show with Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zalecki. We're live from Clearwater. We're coming at you on Monday morning, but recording on Sunday. Jim, it's so great to be in gorgeous Clearwater, Florida. First 5 days of camper in the books.
I'm looking over there at my little canister of sunblock, which you really needed this week because the weather has been beautiful. But here, as we tape on late Sunday afternoon, the weather has turned a little gloomy.
It has.
A little gray, a little windy. But you know what? It's better than snow and 30 degrees.
Yeah, I got here last week, and then they got snow. My wife texted me immediately. He's like, "Go figure! You just landed, and we're going to get snow tonight." And I think you guys are getting back in Philly, are going to get hammered again with snow later this week. But Jim, it's been, it's always great to come down here and be in Clearwater for spring training, and the first several days. I think we talked about this in the last show. My head is always like spinning because there's always so many like big storylines coming up. But Bryce Harper talked, Kyle Schwarber talked, Alec Bohm talked, JT Realmuto talked, Nick Castellanos, Andrew Painter. A lot of big things happened. First full squad workout is today, Monday. So now you're going to see everybody out in the field. When you think back to the first 5 days, like what's your first thing that pops into your head?
Well, you always kind of take stock of the guys coming in, and the old cliche about everybody's in the best shape of their life reporting to spring training. I mean, you look at JT Realmuto, he's a specimen. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life. Christopher Sanchez, he spent some time in the weight room. Alec Bohm, always in great shape. Bryce Harper, always in great shape. Aaron Nola, Kyle Schwarber.
Yep.
So, everybody just looks good. I think, I know the days when guys would come to spring training and sweat off that extra 8 or 9 pounds,
right.
Mickey Mantle would wear the garbage bag and sweat it off. Those days are long gone. These guys stay in shape the entire year. They work out the entire year. They have their trainers and their regimens. And even Nick Castellanos today, we spoke to him, and he said the season ended. He didn't wait very long. He played 162 games plus 4 in the postseason, and really got right into his off-season workouts. So everybody's in great shape, but it's to be expected. Like I said, the days when you came to spring training to get in shape are long over. There's so much at stake. There's so much money at stake, and the technology and the know-how about how to stay in condition year-round is so advanced that there's really no excuse for these guys.
Well, it's funny. We just had a conversation. You mentioned guys back in the day didn't work out all season. You and I just talked with Charlie Manuel, literally about an hour ago, and we're chatting in the hallway outside Rob Thompson's office, and somehow we started talking about beer,
about his off-season jobs.
Yeah, and then I said, "Didn't you sell beer in the off-season, Charlie?" He said, "Yeah, I was a rep for Ham's Brewery
when he played for the Twins."
So Charlie would spend the off-season basically going around Minnesota, going to different bars, right, and like handing out Ham's beer for everybody.
He also worked in the ticket office.
He worked in the ticket office. He said he also worked for Ford Motor Company. He said he had 3 jobs. He said he made more money in the off season on those 3 jobs than he did playing for the Twins. But that gives you an idea. Like Charlie's out there busting his hump in the off season, and now these guys are literally spending all off season working out. So a little bit of a different game.
Working out or making pretending they're Bobby Flay, making cooking videos. And I have really enjoyed Bryce Harper's cooking videos. I mean, he made those ribs. They were great looking. He made cheesesteaks on homemade bread for the Super Bowl. They look great. And then all his protein shakes and all the
Nature's
stuff.
Gatorade. That was like, I got 3.5 million views on TikTok.
What's it? Hold it up to the Phillies show. Come on.
Oh my gosh. I asked him a couple years ago, he put a photo of a steak on, I think it was on Instagram. And I asked him, I said, "Did you really cook that steak?" He said, "I did, but you're not the first person to ask me." He said it was a beautiful steak, medium rare, which is the best way to get it in my opinion. And he said he had a lot of people texting him and saying, "There's no way you made that steak." So he apparently this is stuff he actually does. This is not like, He's into it.
He's multi-talented.
Yes, he is. He's said he might continue it throughout the season. We'll see about that. But Bryce talked. Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto both talked about contract extensions, right? Yeah. And said they're both interested in staying.
I like what Schwarber said, that he had once heard his former teammate from the Cubs, John Lester, say that if you win, the contract will take care of itself. And, I tend to agree. Schwarber's 32. He's going to be a free agent. I think with that bat speed, he can play for a long time. And he's been such an integral part of this team. I think they would love to have him back. And you go out and win, they're going to, I think, try to keep things together. But the clock is ticking here on, I think, on the nucleus of the team that's north of 30. And I think that takes you to something JT Realmuto said, where he said, we're all aware of Father Time.
Right.
And he's another guy who could be a free agent. So, been to three straight postseasons. I fully expect him to play in a fourth straight postseason. But after two earlier than hoped exits, they all want to go further this year.
They do. And you know what? We'll continue that thought right after these words.
How's that New Year's resolution going for you? The fad diets or the BS resolutions are so out. How about just spending less on your wireless bill, Kratz?
Mint Mobile to the rescue. Scotty, they've got half off their 3-month unlimited plan. That's 3-month plan for only $15 a month, baby.
All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network.
Switching is easy. They'll convert your current phone and phone number for you, too.
Switch to Mint, and new customers can get half off an unlimited plan until February 2nd. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
All right, we're back. First of all, we forgot to mention that Ruben is not here today. You probably are wondering where Ruben is. Ruben's been on hiatus celebrating his 60th birthday. He'll be back next episode, so we're looking forward to Ruben, we miss you.
We miss you. Hope you played golf well.
Right.
You usually do.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
He's a great athlete.
Got good hands, man.
Yeah. So JT talked, Kyle Schwarber, like you mentioned, Bryce Harper. And one of the things they were all asked about, well, specifically Kyle and Bryce, was the lineup. Mm-hmm. It's a hot topic, right? Everybody loves talking lineup. I get it. I love making up my own lineup. And Kyle said, listen, I'm number, what did he say? The quote was something like, I'm number 12.
Player number 12.
I'm player number 12.
They'll put me where they need me and they want me, and I'll be agreeable to it. He will bat no lower than fourth.
Right. Rob Thomson did say that. No lower than fourth.
No lower than fourth. And, he improved last year as a hitter. He especially improved against left-handed pitching. And, Rob has said a number of times throughout the offseason and again this week that he thinks, maybe moving him down can offer a guy like Harper a little more protection, not necessarily batting them back to back, but you never know, depending on what the other team has out in its bullpen in terms of lefties. But you get the vibe that Rob is leaning toward Trey Turner leading off, Bryce Harper batting second, moving up from third, Alec Bohm, who's been very, very good with runners on base, hitting third, and Schwarber hitting fourth. That's the vibe I get. Rob likes the right, left. Harper loves hitting third. He talked about that yesterday. Why? And it makes sense. Before his first at bat, he likes to see as many pitches from the side as possible, from the on deck circle or from the top step of the dugout. Likes to see what that pitcher's got. That's it could be 6, 7, 8, 9 pitches, but he's fine with batting two. He'd prefer not to bat leadoff, but again, he also said that whatever the skipper thinks can give them the best chance to win ball games. That's what it's all about. And that is the theme. They need to win ball games. And they want to win ball games. And after two quick exits, the last 2 Octobers, and then losing in Game 6 of the World Series in 2022, I think there's an urgency here. Realmuto has talked about it. He did talk about it. And I think it's real. I think it's real, especially for a guy like Realmuto, a free agent after the season. He'll turn 34 before opening day. They know they have a good nucleus, and they know it's time. They also know there's a lot of good teams out there, and you got to play good when the chips are down. And at times, the last 2 Octobers, they didn't play well when the chips are down. So, they're hoping to change that. And they certainly have the personnel that's capable of changing that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting. We mentioned the lineup, so it's probably gonna be Turner, Harper, Bohm, Schwarber in that order. And yeah, Rob Thomson also said that Bryce will not hit a lead off. He does not want him to hit lead off. But you're right, though. There's a kind of a general theme, I think, of the first few days is guys being asked to do different things and like saying like, yeah, I will do that. Bryce Harper, he says he loves to hit third. That's where but he's like, I've also hit second. I'm comfortable hitting second. So if I have to hit second, I have to hit second. Kyle Schwarber, he says he doesn't care where he hits. I think he does prefer to hit lead off, but he said, I will hit fourth. That's totally fine. And then you have Kyle Schwarber on the half field the other day, taking some ground balls at first base. I mean, just to possibly maybe play a game at first base this season. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but this is the time of the year when you at least check and see.
Right. Yeah.
Rob Thomson has mentioned JT possibly shagging some balls in left field and playing some left field. I don't know if we're ever going to see that. I mean, I guess I would probably bet against it, but again, the idea being if you can get JT off his feet behind the plate, maybe keep that right-handed bat in the lineup by playing him in left field, you can do some different things. So, and all those guys seem to be receptive to it. Although I did ask JT, like, what are the odds we see you in left field shagging balls this spring? And he kind of chuckled, said, well, I think there's a chance you'll see me out there. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but the idea that the Phillies are trying to, I guess, pose to their players is we want to explore different things we can do to give ourselves the best chance to win. If that means maybe giving Bryce a day off or JT a day off behind the plate, let's at least see if that's an option for us, because maybe that could help us take that next step in the postseason.
Yeah. A lot of it is, it's all about monitoring workload for a team that has a lot of guys north of 30, and a lot of it is centered on JT Realmuto. Because he's really an indispensable force. He's the lead, to me, the leader of that pitching staff, and the starting rotation is still the strength of that team. So, keeping him fresh is important for down the stretch. It's important for October, but they also want to keep his right-handed bat going, especially when he's swinging it well. So, you explore options. Can he play a day at first base, which would allow Bryce Harper to maybe DH a day, get him off his feet. So they'll be creative in those ways and elements of doing things. And, they'll also monitor workload in the starting rotation, because I think we'll see a 6-man rotation at times in the second half. And the Dodgers are talking about doing that.
Right.
It's not unheard of these days. You look at Aaron Nola since 2021, number one in the majors in innings. Zack Wheeler since 2021, start of 2021, number 3 in the majors in innings. So these are guys that you need to preserve, along with the catcher, along with Bryce Harper, along with Kyle Schwarber, along with Castellanos, all those guys north of 30, because we can't forget the prize is in October, and you want healthy players in October.
Alec Bohm was in trade rumors this offseason. Nick Castellanos, I feel like Nick's name was out there, but it certainly wasn't as big as Alec Bohm, but they both addressed it the other day. And,
the big one was Bohm.
The big one was Bohm, for sure. That was the guy, like, we said it all offseason, right? Like, Jim, won't you be surprised? We wouldn't be surprised if the first day of camp or the second day of camp we're in front of Bohm's locker asking him about it. And that's exactly what happened. We're standing in front of Alec Bohm's locker the other day, and we're like, well, you're here. And he's like, yeah, I was here. I had somebody different come up to me every day at my gym in Houston and go, you getting traded? I hear you're getting traded. So the Phillies reached out to him. They reached out to, or Rob Thomson reached out to Alec in December. Dave Dombrowski reached out to Scott Boras, Bohm's agent, in December, and said, we're not shopping him. I think they were, I don't know how you want to put it, Jim, but it wasn't just they were taking calls. They were exploring all options, so however you want to say it.
There was a lot of smoke, more smoke than just people are ringing our doorbell asking about him. I think there was an openness to moving him if it would move the team forward, and there was never that type of return that would have moved the team forward. And I'm good with it. I think he's an awfully good player.
Right.
97 RBIs each of the last 2 seasons. He brings some contact to the middle of the order. I still think he's getting better offensively and defensively. I love the work he does with runners on base, and I like what I heard from him the other day. He didn't seem to take anything personal.
Right.
He acknowledged that maybe there's some flaws there in the way he shows frustration, needs to bounce back from it, maybe channel it in a different direction. And he acknowledged that he's still, a work in progress. And, I thought he said the right things. And I said this to you a couple weeks ago, that I think he should report with a healthy chip on his shoulder and kind of a show. I'm going to show everybody kind of attitude. And I think we saw that. He just, he grabs his stuff. He goes out to work. So he's here. And I think it's unless you were really going to move this thing forward and get a real quality return, you had to be stingy and giving up a guy like Alec Bohm. I'm glad he's back.
What's your feeling on players showing emotion on the field, right? Because Bohm spikes his helmet. Sometimes he has some not great, bad body language or whatever you want to say. But like the spiking of the helmet got a lot of attention late in the season. Do you have a feeling on that? Because I almost feel like sometimes when a player is going well, it's like, oh man, he's fired up. And then when he's struggling, it's like you gotta like contain yourself, right? I mean,
you don't want to see it all the time, but to me, it's emotion and it's organic and it's a representation that this guy cares. And you care so much that when you fail, you want to smash something.
Right.
I mean, I have those moments in my own career. So, but I don't make my living in front of 45,000 people every night.
Right.
So, I'm okay with showing that you care. If that's their biggest criticism of him, then maybe show it down the tunnel. But I also think there was probably more there. And I do think they're really good at communication. They probably talked to him about some things that maybe didn't sit well with people, and he can make these improvements this year. Right. It's a big year for him because he's so important to the Phillies and where they are on their winning curve. And he's still a young guy, 2 years away from free agency and the potential of big earnings. And, this is just part of ramping up and building his free agent platform. You don't just build your free agent platform in your walk year.
I was laughing earlier because you said, like, you get frustrated, but you're not in front of everybody. Yeah. And I like literally a few days before I came down here, I had to install a towel rack in my bathroom, and we patched everything up, and I drilled it in, and I stripped the screw and I snapped it off. And I was so mad, and I was losing it because I messed up my walls. And I'm thinking of that going, imagine if I was doing it in front of 40,000 people.
Yeah, I mean,
I lost it over something stupid like that.
These guys are playing I think they're playing the toughest game under the sun.
For sure.
And it's a hard game, and they're human. And we can't lose sight of that. But, frustration is a very real human emotion. And if you can channel it in the right way, sometimes it can actually benefit you. I mean, that's kind of some of the questions that have been asked to players this week. Just the frustration of the last few years, the last 2 Octobers. Can it motivate you? Can you build off that? Schwarber said that he didn't really watch the postseason on TV after they were eliminated because it stings a little bit. And Bryce Harper said something similar, that you just don't want to flush.
That was interesting. I like that.
You don't want to completely flush the hurt and the sting and the disappointment of an October elimination, because you want to remember how it feels so that you can use it as a springboard towards success. So much of this game is emotions and is between the ears, and I think they're in a good place, but who isn't in a good place in spring training? All the MRIs are clean, all the ERAs are 0, everybody's in first place. You know, we'll see. But
Yeah.
for 1 week into camp, things are fine.
Yeah. Nick Castellanos said, what did he say about using the quick exit as fuel? He said, it's not like I'm going to go on my revenge tour. He says he doesn't really think that way. He says, I'm not going to go on it's not like I'm going to be on my revenge tour and like be ready to flip everybody the middle finger if we win.
Yeah.
So.
And he's always got maybe one of the most unique perspectives in that clubhouse. He's been around a long time. He's 32 years old. He said, on Sunday that he believes there's less pressure on this team than maybe there was in the past, just because there was so much negative fallout from their quick exit last year that maybe they'll maybe if they win this year, it'll be a happy surprise. Was that?
Yeah, that was the word.
It?
Yeah, like a happy surprise, a pleasant surprise.
And I actually was picking up a little bit of what he was laying down, because I know they have a $305 million payroll. I know they've been to the playoffs 3 years in a row. I know they won the division. I know they're still on paper a very, very good team, but I feel like so much focus is on the Dodgers and Soto going to the Mets in the division that there is a under the radar element to this team, just a little bit.
Yeah, I think
that maybe they can benefit from.
Yeah, I think so. I think coming off that 2023 NLCS, it was like they thought they should have obviously beaten the Diamondbacks, gone to the World Series, won the World Series, and then after this, coming out of this postseason, it's kind of like, yeah, they're going to be good, but no one. I think the vibe he gets is that nobody really in Philly believes that they can do it, or maybe. But I think nationally, I think it's a different story. I think a lot of people think the Phillies can.
And you know what? Wherever you can find motivation,
right?
Whatever works for you, it can be very individual. I remember Terry Francona used to talk about Curt Schilling and how Schilling could manufacture motivation in any way, shape, or form to help him. And Francona used to say, he gets charged up on bobblehead day. So, whatever fuels you, ride it.
Right. Yeah. So what else kind of popped up? I mean, Andrew Painter spoke. He's excited to be in camp. I mean, obviously, you're not going to see him in any Grapefruit League games. Rob Thomson said, probably split up the righties with maybe Christopher Sanchez would be the lefty.
I would think.
Yeah.
So that would mean probably Nola starts game 3 of the season.
Yeah, Nola would start game 3. And the reason why Christopher Sanchez might be the guy to split up Wheeler and Nola is because Rob said Luzardo and Sanchez
have a similar.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Luzardo and Sanchez
have a similar
are too similar.
Look to power.
So you want to have Ranger and Luzardo or Sanchez next to each other.
So that would line up Wheeler Sanchez, Nola, and then Luzardo or Ranger.
Yeah,
Ranger,
right.
That's probably Luzardo.
So.
I'll tell you what, I like talking to Luzardo. Sharp kid.
Yeah, he is a very impressive guy. And
like his bullpens, he's in great shape.
Yep. I asked Nick, I said, because, Nick Castellanos lives in Southern Florida and Jesus Luzardo lives in Southern Florida. And I said, do you know him? He's like, other than his 97-mile-an-hour fastball and backdoor slider, he's like, I don't, but that's pretty much what I know.
Yeah.
So everybody seems really, of all the off-season acquisitions, I think everybody that has faced him, because we talked to most of the hitters this week, is really excited about having Jesus Luzardo in the rotation. I think maybe not a lot of people locally obviously know him as much or maybe appreciate him as much, but those hitters really seem like that's a big pickup.
If he's healthy, he's a top half of the rotation guy. And there's this narrative, the Phillies didn't do a lot. And compared to previous winters, they didn't have that big splashy, big paycheck signing, but Luzardo could be a hell of a pickup in this division. And, one other little thing that jumped out at me this week, and I wasn't surprised to hear it, but, nonetheless, interesting to hear. Zack Wheeler, great shape, starting that new 3-year extension at 42 per?
42 million.
I mean, 42, and 42. Anyway, finished second in the Cy Young last year. Got a lot of first place votes, but finished second to Chris Sale, and he flat out said, I think Chris Sale deserved it.
Yeah, he did. And of course he said he wants to try to win it again. I mean, that's something, JT said it on our show a couple of weeks ago. I think that, he feels bad that he's come so close the past 2 of the last 4 years, finished second. So good, interesting. We talked to all the big dogs really the first few days of camp.
And just about everybody's in, and everybody's healthy. Anybody who had, Painter's 100%. They're just going to go easy with him. He's going to observe. He's going to, he threw a nice and easy bullpen the other day. But again, Dave Dombrowski uses the phrase July-ish, but it could be sometime in June. It could be, who knows?
Right.
I guess their hope is they can kind of take their time with them and really turn them loose. In some ways, I guess the later the better, because if it's a little bit later, that means that 5-man is in good shape. And looking around the clubhouse, they do have starting pitching depth.
They do.
Joe Ross.
Joe Ross is going to get stretched out, right? Yeah. Rob Thomson said he sees him as more of a, like a 2-inning reliever, maybe a high leverage reliever, but they're going to stretch him out. So if he needs to be prepared, just in case
give
something
him some
happens.
Innings. Taiwan is back. Mick Abel's here. There are others as well. So Dave Dombrowski had kind of his lid lifter press conference, and he flat out said he thought maybe they could have won more games last year if he had addressed that number 5 starter position at the trade deadline. But at the time of the trade deadline, they had a few guys that were contributing. So. But he did, kind of put his hand up there. But ultimately, they didn't get knocked out of the postseason because of the number 5 starter last year. They got knocked out because the bullpen didn't pitch well in October, and the bats went quiet in October at the worst possible time. So I know people hate to hear it, but you still got to play well at the right time because, get in, get hot. And this is a team that is capable of getting in. And then they need to get hot, but it's a long time away. Baseball is a long season. We're still 7 months away from that tournament even beginning.
Nick Castellanos, we asked him, do you think he could win? And he said, it reminds me of the time that Bobby Knight rubbed a glass on the podium at the NCAA tournament press conference and looked into his crystal ball to try to answer some questions. I didn't bring my crystal ball to camp this spring. So, but he's right. I mean,
did you ever read Season on the Brink?
I never read Season on the Brink.
One of my favorite all-time books. The detail and the inside and the way that John Feinstein captured Bobby Knight. And,
I was in college and I got to do I covered a couple Indiana, Minnesota basketball games. And I mean, he was a trip, he was such a big deal back then. And he was interesting. Those post-game press conferences were interesting.
Yeah. Great book, fascinating character. Big baseball fan, too, the late Bobby Knight.
We'll be back later this week. If you like the Philly Show, go to thephillyshow.com. You can pick up a Philly Show t-shirt by 47 brand. Ruben will be back
this week.
We'll be back.
First workout today.
Yes,
Monday.
First full squad workout is Monday. And, Jim, I guess I will smell you later.
I'll be smelling you, buddy.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.